Hey everybody, Shane here. Let me tell you about my friends at Naked Vine, located at 1624 Clarkson Road in Chesterfield, Missouri, serving up all your favorite wine, whiskey, and local craft beers. Stop by and visit them Thursday, December 20th for some live music from Kevin Babb. Friday, December 21st, Pat Liston. And Saturday, December 22nd, the Scandaleros. I'll be back out there on January 8th with my singer-songwriter storytelling showcase, bringing along my good friends Cara Louise, Cree Ryder, and Drew Schaefer for that one. So do not miss that show. 7 p.m. start, $5 at the door. Full listing of events and everything happening at Naked Vine can be found at nakedvine.net. Be sure to follow along with them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the show.
A podcast is kind of like it's like a radio show that's not on the radio. It's on the internet. Does that make sense? Uh-huh. Yeah. That's also like my mom. It makes it sound more confusing, doesn't it? It sounds like this.
Hey everybody, this is Shaughn Uebinger. I'm here with my wife Gina and Shane Presley from Rock Paper Podcast. Tune in, more to come.
Rock Paper Podcast. Rock Paper Podcast. Rock Paper Podcast, y'all.
Born in these hills, poor coal miner's son. I felt the cold of poverty. I've seen the destruction. I've seen that dog will take the lives of many a strong men. I've seen the mountains crumble in the mining company's hands. I've seen the men with black lung counting down their days. Faces of desperation, slaving for their pay. Company's got a stranglehold on all these mining towns. Hardest work for little pay, no other jobs around. Well, it's dark, it's dangerous, it's damp and it's cold. It'll break the backs of young men, steal the souls of the old. But what's a man to do when he's got children to feed? Mortgage on his property and a bank holding the deed. My mama goodbye. Went down into that dark hole like he'd done thousands of times. When daddy never came home, mama fell to her knees and prayed. 6 Utah miners that never see the light of day. Now a cold wind does blow down that winding dusty road. And sometimes you can hear the cries of those buried beneath the cold.
Hey everybody, Shane Presley here, Rock Paper Podcast, coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri. Hanging out today with Shaughn Uebinger.
You got it, Uebinger.
And Gina. Oh, sorry. What?
Gina. Gina Uebinger.
Uebinger. All right. I want to make sure got that all right. But this is exciting. I'm glad to be here today, hanging out with you all and talking about some of this music. We just recently became friendly. I guess probably started through Facebook, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, it was.
I started taking notice. That's a lot of how I do it. Like, I'll meet people online that are playing shows around town on the local calendars and stuff, and I'll start trying to follow them. And
and I'm pretty sure that's how this all kind of we first got introduced, I think.
Yeah.
And
It's a little like stalking sometimes.
sometimes
I see artists I like, so then I start following them, and then I start looking, well, who are they, looking at, and, you end up becoming friends with somebody. It's like, okay, well, what shows are they going to? That kind of thing. And that's the cool thing about Facebook, though.
Right.
Those events, and you can see who's interested and who's going.
Right. We started taking notice to some of that going on there, and then I guess it wasn't too long after we ended up meeting up, and you bought one of my T-shirts and stuff, and we so that was really cool getting that out there and stuff. And then I started listening to the music, and you also donated to my Toys for Tots fundraiser I just did a little bit ago. So like we've had a lot of interactions, but this is our first time really getting to hang out and chat. And we did hang out at the K Brothers.
The K Brothers.
The K Brothers.
And I got to meet your mom.
Yeah.
She's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, she's been having a whole lot of fun going to all these shows and getting to meet people as well, and
she's very proud of you.
oh, thanks. Yeah, she's definitely my number one fan. She's always out there telling everybody about the show and everything, and so it's very exciting that especially have that kind of support and stuff. So it means a lot to me.
Absolutely.
But like I said, this is our first time really getting to sit and chat and actually kind of and not trying to talk over a band or something. So, tell me a little bit more about you guys. Like this, I guess this is obviously
we're newlyweds actually.
Yeah.
We've been married
we
a year
just
and a half.
over a year. Yeah, year and a half. Wow, I mean, music has always been a huge part of my life. I was blessed to grow up with kind of liberal parents, I guess you'd say. So I grew up listening to less than typical music. I was at an early age. It was Frank Zappa, Hawkwind, some of the more obscure stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My family didn't listen to pop. New Riders of the Purple Sage. That was one of my big ones growing up. That was, and like early Charlie Daniels stuff. It was just kind of interesting. That was kind of my first exposure to what eventually ended up being my passion, which is like Americana music, but that kind of Southern rock and kind of just obscure stuff kind of drove me.
Was that growing up here in St. Louis, or did you move?
Yeah, no, I actually was born in St. John's Mercy.
All right.
Right, and so I've spent my whole life within like a 10-mile radius for the most part.
Yeah.
I went to Zumwalt here. Still live in O'Fallon.
Right. I'm born and raised in Winsville, so I haven't ventured off too far from home. I currently live like a mile and a half or something from the home I grew up in, so I haven't gone too far yet. But I love making my way to St. Louis for all the music and everything else. But
yeah, as a young person, all I could dream of is the day that I could get away. And then I finally reached a certain point in adulthood where I enjoy what I have here. And people can say what they want about the suburbs or living in St. Charles County or whatever. I love it. We're kind of at an intersection here, and I can zip down to the city and be there in 35 minutes. So I feel like I got the best of both worlds.
For sure. Well, you mentioned newlyweds, and I guess also newly bandmates, right? Like
right.
You just recently started playing the drums, right?
Yeah. I kind of went through some crazy times in my life, just say that. Kind of dark times, and basically gave up music altogether. I ended up finding myself in bad financial situations. I was going through a separation and ultimately a divorce, and sold all of my music instruments, and just kind of went into a state of depression. And then years later, I ended up meeting Gina, and life began to change again. She inspired me to do what I love, and by doing that, here we are a year and a half later, and I self-produced an EP, and then we love spending time together, and I thought, well, what better way to do that than, you know, doing what we love? And she's has an interest in music. She played saxophone in school.
In high school.
So she's
Band.
naturally musical, and I'm like, well, let's give this a try.
I have a musical family.
We started on ukulele, and she did pretty good with that. But then we messed around with putting together a suitcase, you know, drum kit, and she picked that up pretty quick. So it's like, okay, well, this is fun. And if you're like us and you're middle-aged and you got a day job and you're doing this for fun on the weekends, it makes travel easy. Because I don't mind sharing a hotel room with her, and cuts expenses. It's a practical way to spend time together and love what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean that's like that's beautiful, but I think like that's like the dream. You know, your music's now taking you around the country, and you're getting to see all kinds of stuff, and then you know get to just travel as well. Like I said, you know, getting to do it with your best friend. So like,
Exactly.
Definitely.
that's a pretty good deal.
And we have family spread out throughout the country. So her adult daughter, lives in Houston. So I just recently did a show at Foam with a guy from Austin. So great networking possibilities. So, you know, I talked to his ghostwriter, his name's Steve. Talked to Steve, and he said, yeah, give me 3 or 4 months advance notice, and we can probably hook something up in Austin.
Right.
And I'm like, well, we go to Houston every year, so we'll just go the long way. Her brother and his family, they live in Oklahoma, so it's like, okay, working on booking some gigs in Norman right now, and then hopefully Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. So take advantage of these family trips. Like, okay, the family's getting together, so can I book a show in there somewhere? If you're traveling anyway.
So I guess going back a little bit though, like so this is always, it's been there for like you were introduced to music at a young age, and then when do you start wanting to like you discover the writing and stuff, like has that always been there, or
I started playing guitar I was about 9 years old, and I was your typical 9-year-old that just grew up learning chords and kids teaching me how to play, you know, Leonard Skinner songs, and that was fine. But I just kind of naturally just loved it. So by the time I was 13, myself and some I guess I would have been middle school, junior high, we formed our first band. And by 16, like we started doing some shows. Nothing real serious. We were just doing cover songs, and so it was just your standard stock fare. And then I want to say, so I was doing that, but on the other side, like I said, I was always like open-minded with music. So one day I had one of those old vintage stereos with the turn dial, and I just scrolling through the frequencies, and I end up on the lower left side, and that's where I started finding things were interesting. Like all the pop stuff is on the right side. I found in the lower left side, it was actually a KCLC show. They don't even have that programming anymore, but I remember it distinctly. DJ was Dr. Screwy, and he was playing, he played Circle Jerks, he played The Love Dolls, Beer and Ludes. I remember the song. And it was just funny, but that was life-changing, because all of a sudden, like, oh my God, I didn't know this was going on.
Right.
And it was my first exposure to punk rock. And so then I started seeking that out, because, you know, back then, growing up in St. Charles County, there was nothing like that out here. I mean, that stuff was going on in the city, but I was too young to drive, you know, so I didn't know any punk kids. I didn't know punk music existed outside of, you know, what I'd see like on these crazy episodes of Chips where the punk rockers get in the fight. I don't know if you ever saw that episode, but, you know, so it was all exaggerated. But anyway, that's what that did for me, though, is it liberated me, because suddenly I realized that making music was accessible, because that's what that whole scene was about, is a do-it-yourself culture. So at that point, that's when I started really getting more into writing, and then it was all bad. I couldn't write songs. They were terrible. But it didn't matter that they were terrible, because I ended up, you know, in high school getting in this punk band, and we started making music and did a couple of cool shows. The old Bernard pub down off of Lafayette.
Okay.
But it was a
What
blast.
was the name of your band? The Eddies?
Yeah, the Eddies. It's a long long story.
Some people listening to this from your high school and your high school days, they might remember the Eddies.
We were practicing in a storage shed, and we were trying to come up with a band name. And our singer, his middle name was Edward, and he decided, let's be Eddie and the Pricks. And we're all like, no, that's a great name. I get to be Eddie. And he's like, well, I'm the only one that's really Eddie, so that makes you guys the Pricks. So we decided that, after a few beers, we decided, well, we could just all be Eddie. So came up with a band name, the Eddies. Yeah. It was totally an inside joke, and it was a ridiculous name, but
right.
It stuck.
I've had a couple of friends that actually practice out of those U-Haul storage centers, and it's actually a pretty genius idea, because they got all those carts and stuff for loading up your gear and hauling it around, and then most of them now are all climate controlled and everything. And
yeah, back then they were not climate controlled, right. And we had one light bulb with a pull string, so we literally unscrewed the light bulb, screwed in one of those adapters, plug a power strip into that, and then plug a power strip into that power strip, and then we just set it up, and we usually kept big candles in the wintertime, so you had to warm your hands over the candles in between songs because it was just cold. Right. And then one day it all melted down because we overloaded the circuit. It just should have been an electrical fire, but the thing turned black, smoked, and just melted, and power went out. So we're dumb young kids. We think, well, we'll just throw a tarp over the music equipment and unplug it and tell them we don't know what happened. The guy was not stupid, but he was very cool. Came out and replaced it for us, and actually replaced it with a better one. Said maybe that'll help you out.
There you go. Nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I guess what that did, like I said, is that liberated me into thinking that music is possible to create. Because when you grew up in the 70s, all you see is these giant stadium bands, and it's like this big fantasy. You got Queen, you got Zeppelin, you got huge arenas filled with people. And it's like, man, that's like this pipe dream. And then suddenly you find out there's a VFW hall and 100 kids that want to hear music, and they don't care if it's good or bad. They just care that it's original. Mm-hmm. So that's what got me going.
Yeah, man. Awesome. We locally here we had a Midwest Music Pit in Wentzville. I didn't go to a lot of the VFW thing, but that was what it was for us. Was like growing up in high school, we had friends put together some high school rock bands and started playing out and playing live local original music. And Midwest Music Pit in Wentzville gave them an opportunity to play, and so we all of our buddies would pack the house and we'd watch them play and stuff. And yeah, it was very exciting times. Like you don't even really care it's good. It's just your buddies up there playing, so you
right.
go out to support them and had fun with it, and so. And
as a musician, just to create art rather than imitate art,
right?
Even if it's bad art, it's empowering.
Yeah.
And then eventually, if you do it enough, it gets better, and that's kind of the way it works. At least you hope it does. I was just having a conversation last night at Gaslight with Zach, and we were talking about like the fact that all these old kids from the punk scene like started playing Americana music and alt country stuff. And locally it all started in Belleville with Uncle Tupelo, which and it's continuing, like this whole trend. It's weird because now playing in the Americana scene, I had a guy come up and he's like, hey, were you at the Naked Ray Gun show at SIU Edwardsville in '86? And this is a guy wearing overalls with a big beard playing bass.
Right.
And it's just funny that there's that transition. People. And we all know this, yeah, and it's like, wow, it just kind of continued this trend. And, so I was saying that I think what the connection is, because it doesn't seem to be a logical connection at first, but I think it's just the fact that we've always been looking for something authentic. Mm-hmm.
And
wanted something that felt real.
You slowed down a bit too.
Yeah, and then as you get older, it's like I don't have that level of energy.
You don't want to scream out songs.
Well, sometimes you do, but for the most part, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's give them a little sneak peek of what you've been up to today. We we did some live jamming, and let's play Teardrops on our Headstone that features both of you playing live on this one, live from the living room here. And anything you want to add around this one? This is.
Oh, it's a tearjerker.
Yeah.
Most of my songs, are based on my experiences, obviously. Every songwriter does that, but
the song is.
I have a tendency to like hurting songs, and it's my way of processing things. So a lot of my songs are about bad life choices, and I'm trying to bring them around to be about redemption and change, because ultimately that's what I'm shooting for. So sometimes it's just me working through my stuff. But this particular song was about the death of my mother, so it took me a little while before I could sing it without crying, which is kind of interesting. I could only get about 3 verses in, and then I'd start crying and I'd have to stop. But, it's been a healing process, and sometimes we make choices that aren't, the healthiest choice, and then we spend the rest of our life living with the consequences of that choice. So the best you can do is that you can't go back and change anything, but you can come to understand how you got into that situation, why you made the choices you did, and God willing, you won't make them again. So the song is about that. Box of old photos, regret like I never known. Memories slowly fading, and teardrops on her headstone. When I was just a young boy, sitting on my mama's knee, I was uncomplicated, simple and worry-free. As I grew a little older, well, I began to stray, started running with the wrong crowd, living life in different ways. Well, mama left this earth, all I've got left of her is a shoebox of old photos, regret like I never known. Memories slowly fading, and teardrops on her headstone. Mama tried to warn me, but I had no time for her. I was raising hell and running wild, trying to cover up the hurt. I was young and full of anger, but didn't have a clue for all the pain that I felt. Was hurting too. Well, mama left this earth, and all I've got left of her is a shoebox of old photos, regret like I never known. Memories slowly fading, and teardrops on her headstone. distance grew between us. The years went on and on. I always thought there'd be tomorrow. I got the call that she was gone. Mother's love is unending. That fact I'd been blind. So many words unspoken, only sorrow left behind. Well, mama left this earth, and all I've got left of her is a shoebox of old photos. Regret like I never known. Memories slowly fading, and teardrops on her headstone. Teardrops on her headstone.
Is it? Do you find when you're playing it out live now, people are responding to it? I mean, are they coming up and talking about?
It's only a couple months old.
I've only played this out a couple of times, but in general, I will say this is kind of a memorable moment. We were kind of passing through Springfield on our way to Oklahoma, I think. Mm-hmm. So we found an open mic in Springfield. It was at what is that place? Something, the Complex. Anyway, they do a lot of music there. We just happened to be going through on an open mic. So it was a totally empty room. There's like two rooms. You got the stage room, and then you got the bar side. Everybody's in the bar. Nobody's on the stage side. So I literally went up there for open mic. I plug in. There's like 3 people out there. But as soon as I started playing, people started coming through that. And then people were like, play one more. Play one more. So I ended up playing like 5 songs in a row at this open mic night, you know, and I unplug and I get down off the stage, and this drunk guy just comes up to me. He's like, dude, you were playing some hurtin' songs. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I do. So that's just kind of stuck with me. So when people ask me what kind of music I do, I'm like, right. I write hurtin' songs.
Sure. But
really it's about healing more than hurting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I do love about what you do and when singer-songwriters in general is that the stories in these songs and the fact that like when you play them out, like it's almost like you're telling my story sometimes, you know. It's like I can relate to a lot of the lyrics and the messages in a lot of these songs and stuff, even though, and especially I might not even ever went through it, but there's something like I can connect in my own personal life, whether whatever it might be, I can relate to, you know, you can. In some stories, it may be, you know, drugs or alcohol or whatever, but you can also replace that with any other relationships and stuff. You know, there's a lot of things that are like metaphors in there and stuff that you can kind of substitute whatever it is for you in that particular situation and stuff. So that's what it's just like something I've really connected to as probably not. I didn't do it a lot as a kid. I don't think it wasn't something, but as growing up and discovering more in this Americana and folk and everything else, getting to know all these lyrics and stuff to these songs, and I started really getting into a lot of that. So,
and that's what's always been the allure to me. It's just the personal nature of it.
Right.
I love a storyteller, and I was telling Gina that we all have stories. It's just some people have a knack of saying them in a way that make you want to listen.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the craft of songwriting is about.
Sure.
It's just taking mundane things. I mean, we've all had these experiences, but if I can somehow present them to you in a way that piques your interest and makes you listen, and sometimes it works.
One of my favorite examples is Jason Isbell's got that song, blanking on the name now, but Live Oak or something, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah, when he talks about like burying her under the water table line,
right,
and all this stuff was all about him beating dealing with his addiction of alcohol and stuff, and getting sober, but he writes it as he's like killed this woman and he's like burying her by the tree and all this stuff, and so
Jason Isbell is a master storyteller.
Yeah, he's incredible.
I know I had mentioned earlier going through a dark time in my life, and addiction and alcoholism was a big part of that. Sometimes when you find your life flipped upside down, you don't always. Not everybody has coping skills. I didn't. I lived a relatively normal life, and then when life threw me a curveball, I didn't know how to deal with it. So I started drinking, and I started using, and went back. I reverted back to my teen years because it wasn't my first go around with addiction. And within a matter of a week, I was a blackout drunk again. And that went on for about a year and a half, and it was a very difficult time. I felt like I'd lost everything, and then all I wanted to do was not feel. So I was a very skillful drinker. I put myself on a drinking schedule. This is how crazy it was. It's like I do not want to face reality, so I can. If I start drinking at this time, I drink until I black out. I wake up, I go to work, I come home, I start drinking again. On my days off, I start drinking in the morning, I black out, I wake up, same day, I drink again. So I had it down to it like mastery of I can have 2 blackouts in one day on my days off.
All right.
And it was crazy. I drank until my liver hurt and I was just miserable and man, what is this sharp pain in my side? And it wasn't until later when I finally found myself in recovery, my sponsor's like, that's your liver, you idiot. Right. And I'm like, that's what that... But what happened, that's how I got into Jason Isbell, is life got to such a point where I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't stop the pain because my one solution, which was drinking, wasn't a solution anymore. Now it was another problem. So now I have no solution. So at that point, I finally sought out help and got into Alcoholics Anonymous and started working with a sponsor. And I was so miserable, I was willing to do anything that they told me to do. That's, and it worked for me. I hear a lot of stories about people saying, "Oh, this doesn't work or that doesn't work." I'm like, it worked for me. I can only speak from my own experience.
Start praying, and you were an atheist.
I was an atheist. I was told that praying worked for me, so I'm like, okay, I'm willing to do this. Not only I'm an atheist, yes, but I'm also a pragmatist. So I'm thinking to myself, well, even if God doesn't exist, repetition of something, I can create new neural networks. So ultimately, I took it. I took on prayer and recovery from an atheist viewpoint, and then I found that God became an integral part of my life, and I had to rethink my whole world viewpoint. And then after recovery, everything, I stayed sober and I did all these things. My life changed, and then I met Gina, and we wouldn't have been a thing if I was still stuck in that place. But what I did is I took the time to work on me, and I got healthy, and went backwards in time, and I worked through all the things that got me to there, and I realized that the alcohol and the drugs weren't my problem, they were my solution. My problems were what drove me to use that as a solution. Right. But when that solution didn't work anymore, I had to find something else, and luckily I did. And I think much like Jason Isbell, not to compare my writing to his, but it gives you a lot of topics to write about. Oh, yeah. And if you sift through my lyrics, a lot of the songs haven't been released yet, but as we work through those lyrics, you'll see that recovery is a big aspect of my writing. And I was very much inspired by Isbell's recovery, because somebody in recovery actually said, you got to check this guy out. And I started listening, and all I could do was listen to Southeastern and cry, because I'm like, shit, I know this guy. Yeah. It's like, I've never met the man, but his story is my story in so many ways, and it's that way for any alcoholic or addict.
I love that feeling. Like I say, when you feel like you know them even through this story. I mean, they could be completely fictional stories, but you connect so much to those songs and that artist that you just feel like you know the person already. But But yeah, that Southeastern record is incredible. So one of my absolute favorites for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about yours. Like I said, we do have a EP available now digitally everywhere. You can stream on Spotify and things, but you can also pick up a physical copy at any of the upcoming shows and stuff. But this all recorded right here, right?
Right in the living room here. Yeah. I kind of set up my spare bedroom as a control room and ran cords out into the living room, and I had some friends over. Walt Miller played on it, Daniel Fonstock, Nick Pence, all local musicians, and each of them played on different songs, and we just made it happen right here.
Yeah, and titled Days Uncertain. If you're looking forward, check that out. But yeah, sounds great, and especially I would have never guessed you did it in your apartment if it hadn't been for you telling me that. But it sounds awesome, and like I said, it's really cool that we have that ability and the technology to do some of this kind of stuff like that right here. So. But yeah, check it out. We do want to share a track with you. My particular favorite when I was listening was a song called Metamphetamine. And you were talking about some of the hurtin' tunes, and there's definitely a bunch of them on this collection. There's a lot of pretty sad stuff, but this one, even though it's some little bit darker subject matter and stuff, it's a little more upbeat and still fun song to listen to and stuff. But anything you want to
tell me your inspiration for that song.
Yeah, well. Aside from, obviously, the songwriter thing, my day job, I work in mental health. And at that particular time, I was actually working at the Salvation Army Family Shelter. And doing intakes, I get to meet all kinds of different people. What's funny is, in hindsight, my life hadn't crumbled yet. So I do these intakes and I bring in all these people, and I start seeing this particular, very specific demographic of people that found themselves in this situation, requiring assistance in the homeless shelter. And oftentimes methamphetamine was a big crucial role in that. And it was interesting because I think in hindsight, man, these poor people, how they get themselves into this situation, And anyway, that inspired the writing of this song. And then who knew that, 8 years later, my life fell apart, and while methamphetamine wasn't in the equation, it was still drugs and alcohol. And then suddenly I was wearing the shoes of the people that I'd served 8 years prior. So it was just kind of a realization for me that it can happen to any of us, when life gets out of control and you don't have a strong support network or a decent skill set of tools in your toolbox. You don't know what to do. You find yourself in precarious situations.
Yeah.
But this song is just kind of an imaginary scenario based on a lot of the stories that I had heard.
Right.
Because a lot of people are willing to share their stories at the homeless shelter, and wow, that's some heavy stuff. So
yeah,
I'll write a song about it.
Yeah.
In the Midwest, the son of a working man, I never counted on much from life, and then one day I got a plan. It all seemed so easy. Maybe I was naive, but I knew there was money to be made cooking methamphetamine. everything went right as planned. The money, it was rolling in. Then I started smoking that shit that I was cooking. Started down the road to the end. Just a taste became a little bit more, and then it grabbed a hold of me. No matter how I tried, I couldn't kick that old methamphetamine. The devil's got a right-hand man, does his dirty work, it seems. Drag you down to the depths of hell. His name is Methamphetamine. Was lucky this time. I never saw it coming. It's not the way I thought it would be. Now I'm staring at the walls of this county jail because of methamphetamine.
That, it's a lot can happen if you just listen. Like, I mean, if you just listen to some of those stories that people have to share and stuff, like, especially as like somebody like yourself that can make a song out of it. Like, I don't have that ability, but I love just listening to people, and like that's a lot of doing this show. I just want to get to share everybody's stories and stuff. So, but yeah, it's a lot can happen if you just sit back and listen for a little bit. And but then we did do, like I mentioned, doing some live acoustic here in the living room, and another one was If I Fall. This is also an unreleased one, right?
Yeah, it's not been released yet. I just was in the studio last night at Gaslight, and we did record it there. It's more of a workshop kind of approach. I'm trying to decide how to do this with the instrumentation. Still working some things out, but I'm going to have the raw acoustic tune down, and we'll go from there. But that song is very much about recovery. I don't even recall which line it was. But sometimes I have this weird thing that happens. I'll be driving in the car or whatever I'm doing. I might be at work, and I'll just have like one line pop in my head. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And I'll write it down, or now I just use Google Docs and I type it on my phone. And that was the case with this song, If I Fall. And the original line came from like 10 years ago. And then life went south, and then life got better. And then during that intense, time in recovery, that's when I actually stumbled upon that old idea, that little fragment, and I'm like, oh, now I have the rest of the story. So that's what that song is really about. It's just my process through recovery and reflection back on some things and how important it is to have that network of people.
Well, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm damn sure where I've been. And I know I'll never go back that way again. sometimes I get so tired that I can't understand. Will you catch me if I fall, my friend? Well, I had some good times and I've been blue. I've been up and I've been down. I've had some friends and lost a few. You know I've been around. About mistakes I've made them too. I was troubled from the start. If I could change the past, you know I would. I never meant to break your heart. But sometimes I get so tired that I can't understand. Will you catch me if I fall, my friend? Well, if I fall, if I fall, if I fall. Well, the days that feel so long now, and the nights are so damn cold, and this bed feels so empty, sleeping here alone. Well, they said all things change in time. Seems that time is all I have. Time to learn, take hills to turn, and time to be a better man. But sometimes I get so goddamn tired, man, that I can't understand. Will you catch me if I fall, my friend?
There's a guy, John Moreland, I'm a huge fan of also. And his I think they called it like Americana Christmas or something because his record and Jason Isbell's record, Southeastern, John Moreland's is In the Throes, and maybe something else. Like they all came out like the same day, and so it was like a really great day for songwriters, Americana music and stuff. But that's how I feel with John Moreland. Like he's like Jason's more of a storyteller and things, but like. And John, like, just has these lines, like one line, and like in a song, like I mean, like the whole song is made up of just killer lines. It's not like a great story from start to finish, but he's like so many lines in those songs. You're like, man, that's such a great line, and so it's interesting to hear you saying that. Like you can write down one line, and that kind of starts everything, and like, but I feel like John's really good at that, just putting them all together and like. Somehow it works, but he's it's like I said, he's a bunch of really good ones in there.
Yeah, it's other writers amaze me.
Yeah,
because I'll hear a song, like I hear that line, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Why didn't I come up with that?
Exactly.
Because I relate so much to it, but it's just a matter of putting those words in the right order, and sometimes it's about the right time too. It resonated with me. So much because it was at that particular time in my life.
Right.
So all things have a season.
Yeah. Well, we do have a bunch of chances to come out and see a show coming up here. We, if you have any friends in the Kansas City area, we're heading to Westport Saloon on December 22nd, and this is kind of starting some of your weekend runs you guys were talking about earlier and stuff. So. Heading out there in the Kansas City area, and then on January 12th, Defiance Ridge in Vineyard, right?
Vineyard, yeah.
In Defiance, Missouri.
Mm-hmm. We've played there.
We're actually playing there tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right now.
Played there, a month ago? Mm-hmm. And then we're playing tonight, and then we're going to play again in January.
And January 13th, Point Labaddie Brewery. And where's what town is that?
It's close to Villa Ridge in Washington.
Okay.
But
I believe it's 3 to 6. I'll have to pull up my calendar.
Yeah. January 19th, you guys are heading to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and playing a place called Brews down there. And locally back here, January 27th, River City Opry, which is a great thing that Brad Jackson's been putting together with all that. So it's a nice Sunday. You can kind of come out afternoon show and get to discover all kinds of great local music.
It's a very cool thing he's put together, and it's awesome just to, if you're looking for new artists, that's the where to go.
Right.
You know, Sunday afternoon, once a month, you get to go. Everybody does like a 20, 25-minute set, and it just amazes me how much talent we have locally here.
For sure. Yeah, I love it, man. Then February 1st, Wages in West Plains, Missouri. I was going to tell you a little story about West Plains. I don't know much about it, but I did do. It stands out to me because one year we were going down to. We used to go to take the boat out a lot when we were kids. My dad and we'd go family vacation kind of stuff, and we go down that way a lot to like Table Rock, and one time we were heading that way, and Dad's truck, broke down, and it was one of those kind of things where it's like, well, it's going to take a week to get the part or whatever, that kind of deal, and it's like, and Dad's, we're already loaded up, everything's in the truck, we got the boat, and it's like we're ready to. It was like 4th of July or whatever it was for the weekend. We were gonna. So Dad just goes to the Ford dealership in West Plains, Missouri, right about where we broke down at, and went and bought himself a new pickup truck. And so in the parking lot of the dealership, we're switching everything over from one truck to the other truck, and
vacation resumed.
Right. So the vacation became a lot more expensive than he intended, but it was
one to remember.
Yeah, we got back on the road, but yeah, that's what I think about is breaking down in West Plains, Missouri, and getting a new pickup truck. So, then another real big one, real exciting opportunity for you guys. You'll be at the Songbird Cafe on February 27th here at the Focal Point in Maplewood. Actually, I'm excited because my buddy Joe Bazzelli is with you, and he's a lot of fun to watch. So, Joe Bazzelli, Chris Nathan, and Mira.
I'm not sure. Go to. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Yeah, something like.
I probably butchered it. I apologize. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. That's a great venue and just a great show. Great format there with the in the round.
Yeah.
Excited.
And everyone there to listen. And
yeah, you know what? That's a one big appeal is the listening room aspect, because I know sometimes, every musician goes through this. Sometimes you play to a room of people.
They're all talking.
You don't even know if they know that you're there. Because they're doing their own thing, and then periodically you'll get some validation when somebody says, "Oh man, that was great when you played such and such song." Like, kind of makes you feel good that somebody did listen, but
Yeah.
So the listening room is a nice format.
Yeah. That's I love that setting, and I think it's really a cool thing that Steve's been doing over there with that Songbird Cafe. So get involved with that. Getting all these all this information. We do have an official Facebook page. You can get involved on there and keep up with all things Shaughn and Gina. So
yeah, come out and say hi to us.
Yeah.
We're friendly people.
That we are.
And again, pick up the record. Days Uncertain, available now. And you mentioned recording at Gaslight. Maybe we might get some new recordings coming soon. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I don't have a date yet. We're still working on some material and some arrangements, but we're starting to put together some ideas. So we'll definitely keep everybody posted.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to hear what's next. So, but yeah, I appreciate you all doing this. It's been a whole lot of fun, and
thank you for interviewing us.
Yes, thank you.
It's been something we've been looking forward to.
Yeah, me too. Like I said, I love that this show has been able to introduce me to all kinds of cool people around town. So so thank you for taking some time out to do this. It's been a lot of fun. And hopefully we can do it again soon when we get some new songs ready to roll. We'll debut some new stuff on here or something.
Definitely. That would be great.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Rock Paper Podcast. Rock Paper Podcast. Rock Paper Podcast.
Rock Paper Podcast.
Well, yeah, that was it.